So we're going to create this type of form. So again, as I said, we're using the same template as before, but you can see I've changed the title of the page as well. So now it's called enrollment. Okay, so all I did, you just go to your brackets 1, so you go to the index. I copied everything in here, pasted into enrollment, and what I've changed only this main part. That's all I did, that main part, plus obviously changing here the header, changing into enrollment. Now for that main part, remember the index had the slideshow before, so I've just moved the slideshow and put it in here. So what we're going to do, we're going to start creating the form. The starting of the form, or the tab of the form, is this line here. And what it means I want to create a form. That's the title of the tab. It's called multimedia form data. The type of the form, multimedia, mean I can insert a lot of things. I can insert a photo, a text, a number, a drop down. So it's a multimedia one. Okay. Action. So this is the attributes for the form. Actions mean when you submit that, or when you click on that submit button at the end of the form, where is the response is in the same page, in a different page. Okay, normally we put the response for that form in a different page. Means when I submit that, when I click at that submit button, the code will understand straight away, will go into a page called, at the moment I just put it into the home page, but called a process, I don't know, form response, whatever you want to name that page, and will execute the code that is written in there. Okay, so the action is where do you want to go, or which code you want it to be executed after you press that submit button. Method post means whatever I've inserted in those forms, the values, I want you to carry them and post them to that other page. So the other page required a parameter. Okay, so imagine whatever the values you've entered in each one of those forms are a parameter to be taken and passed to the second page, which is the action page. Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay. So that's your first line. So at the moment you write it as is this, but the only difference would be is the action page. So every one of you will probably have a different action page than others. We will learn how to write the action or code the action page later. Now, the first thing that I will do, every one of those fields, I put them in a break. So they are aligned by themselves. Okay. The fields contain, so just looking into the page, so you can see that each line or each break or each paragraph contain 2 items. This one here called a label. This one is the type of the form. So it could be a text box, could be a selected drop-down menu, or it could be a checkbox. But all of them has labels. All those texts called label for the form. So that's why this is the student's first name. So the first name, you first write the label. You can format the label the way you want. You can, at the moment there is no format. You can go to the CSS and write label, and then you format it color blue, color yellow, or whatever. Okay, so you can format it the way, the size of it, it's up to you. Now, the next one is the text. So the first name is a user who will enter a name. So it will be a text. So that's why I've put input. Input means a user will enter. You're expecting the user to type in something in that field. The type, or what you're expecting the user to enter, is the text. So the field will accept a text value. ID and names are very, very important, Because when you go to the action page, you want to know where is this first name being stored, right? So that's why these ID and names are important. You will use them later in the action page to retrieve what the user inserted in that first name. What is the value that the user entered in that first name? Writing those ID and name in a way that is relate to what's the content of the textbooks is very important as well. So you're not going to write it ID A, name A. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so write it. You need to write it in a way it's meaningful. Plus, please check the spelling. There is so many students in the past, they spelled the first name here, for example, incorrectly, and they try to spell it differently in the action, and they give them error because cannot recognize. Needs to be exactly same spelling. It's case sensitive as well. Okay, so make sure that you write those ID and the name in a meaningful way. It could be F name, mean first name, you know, L name, last name. It's up to you. But in a way that is clear, not just for you, for anyone else would read your code. And that's it, and close that bracket. So that's the first line. That's the first name. Then I did the same. I copied and pasted exactly this, and then I did the last name. The only difference, obviously, I've changed the label, and I changed the ID and the name. Then this one here, I've just made it up now. So how many eyes? So remember, there is a field called number of eyes. So when you go to your database, we had that one in here. Okay, when you come here, this is the students table that we want to insert data into. So you need to make sure what is the student table required as information. So I haven't done so I've done the shape and the color in a minute. I'll show you. But the eyes, remember, it was one number, so it could be 2, 3, 4. It depends on the number of eyes. So that's why when I've written the code, I've said it's input a type and number this time. So it's not a text, number. So when the user enter, for example, 2 as a word, it will give an error when they try to submit. They only accept a number. And this is a good way to validate your inputs for the textbooks as well. Anyway, so ID, eyes, name, eyes. Okay, so you can see that I've selected that. Okay, so this is the different formats of those textbooks. Now, the next one is the drop-down menu. So the next one is this one here. So you see that the shape, it has specific shapes. Oh, where is it? Enrollment. So the next one is that drop-down menu. How do you do the drop-down menu? At the moment, what I did a fixed drop-down menu, mean a pre-coded drop-down menu. Means I've hard-coded the options, which is a rectangle, circle, square, or whatever. I've hard-coded it. I've written them one by one. Later on, after we do the connection to the database, we're going to do how would we do and dynamic drop-down menu. A dynamic drop-down menu means I will go to the shape table. I'll see what sort of shapes you've entered in the shape table, and taking those shapes and put them in as a menu. Okay, so we're going to learn that one later. I can't teach this one now until we learn how to connect to the database first. Okay, but how to create a menu or a select option in a form will be the same. The only difference is we will do a loop and connect to the database inside. Anyway, so this is an option. So again, a label, which is select a shape. The next one, this time, I want the type of the field is a select Select means you select one of the menus. Name obviously is a shape. As I said, it's very important that we put the name. You could put the ID as well, so you can change it to the CSS format differently. And then, so the select has an opening tab and has a closing tab in here. In between, I will put my list. Each one of those lists will appear in order as you've written them. So I've put in the first one, just choose a shape, just to show you what you need to do in that field. It's good for user-friendly instructions. Over here is blank. A value is blank, meaning there is nothing here to select. If you kept this one, if the user did not select a shape, it will return a blank into the action page. Then the first option is rectangle. So here is the name, how it will appear on your form. The value is how you're going to, how are you going to store it into the database? Okay, so this is how it's going to be stored in the database. This is how it's going to appear in a circle, in the form. Does that make sense? So when we're going to do the dynamic one, will be slightly different. The name will be reading out from the shape name from the field, but the value will be the shape ID because it's a separate table. Okay, so we're going to learn how to do that. But at the moment, this one called a hard-coded drop-down menu. It's not changing. If I want to change it, if I want to add a square, for example, I'll have to add another option, hard code another option. So I'll call this value square. And then this one, obviously, square. Okay, so I've hard coded it. And then close the select. I did the same one from select. I did the same one for color. So just repeated code, but I just changed it for color. I'll save it and I'll show you how. So far you've got only rectangle and circle. After I've added that one, you should have a square now. Okay, so all right, any questions so far? No? Now the last one, second to last is the checkbox, because antenna it's a boolean. Any boolean in your database, you should have a checkbox in the form because it's either taking yes or no, 0 or 1, and so on. So the checkbox is this. Again, it's in a paragraph. A label, does the students has antenna? So you notice that I've changed how to write the label is very important. Okay, student's first name. It's a formal form. So you have to maybe looking into different forms in different websites and learn how do they put the labels. How do they name them? Anyway, it's an input because the user will insert something, but the type this time is a checkbox. So the user will tick or untick. The name is antenna value 1. Value 1 mean if you tick it, will store 1 into the database, and that's what you want. 1 mean yes, 0 mean no. So that's the checkbox. The last one is the button. So the button is another type. So input, select, now is a button. Type, submit. Submits mean when you press on the button, you will actually go to whatever action page you've saved into your form, and you're going to take all the information, pass it on to that page. So submit is very important, the type submit. Name add, this is how I'm going to recognize the button in the action page, and value add as well. And this one here is what the text that will appear on your button. And then just close the button, close the form, and that's your form is ready. So now if we test it, so if I put information, obviously there is nothing gonna happen. So you can see, because I put a number, can you see when I click on that changed? So you can put negative, obviously we'll change it to a positive number, and then you can select the number here. So that will force the user to put just a number, not a text. And then you can select the shape, you can select the color, tick or untick, it doesn't matter. And then when I press add, it should take me, I've made the action is the index PHP, so it should take me back to the home page. That's what I mean by action. Takes you to whatever code, will execute whatever code that you've written in the page that you've given name as. All right, any questions?